Welcome everyone, good morning. Welcome to this Q&A briefing on the second round of development funding from the Catalyst and the National Lottery Community Fund COVID-19 Digital Response. Welcome, my name is David. I'm a Partnerships Manager at CAST, and I'm joined by my colleague Debbie, who's also a Partnerships Manager. Hi Debbie.
Hi everybody.
And we'll both be co-hosting this Q&A session. There's lots of you joining. We've got 46 currently on the call, and I think we've got about 68 registered. And it's great to see a nice mix of organizations that have either completed the Discovery Learning Program. Well done for completing it if you are one of those, as well as the Explore program, and some of you having completed online design hops. So really great to see you all, and thanks for joining us on a Monday morning. The quick reminder for the plan for the session, we are recording the session so we can post it on our YouTube channel and make sure that anyone who couldn't make the session can pick up all the hopefully useful question and answers that we'll be covering. Please keep yourselves on mute whilst we present. We're trying to really use the slide deck here and the Slido tool to collect any questions and answers. The plan for the session is we'll do quick introduction about the development funding round and what it entails. You've also got some information on the webpage and a really useful slide deck, which hopefully you've all had the chance to read before this session. And then we'll jump into a Q&A session. We're using the Slido as a tool to collect some of your questions. Please use the link in the slides here. You don't need to sign in. You can just click on that link and log any questions. It's anonymous, so please just log anything you'd like. When you get to, hopefully you've got the link now. Once you click on that link, you should be seeing the screen. You can type your question in the top box here. You can ask anonymous, and then we will get your question down here on this list here. And it would be great if you could upvote any questions that you'd like us to cover, because there's lots of you here. We've only got an hour, so this will help us prioritize. You can just click on the little thumbs up button here, and it will turn blue. And the questions with the highest votes will probably get priority. So this will help us manage the flow of questions coming in. Hopefully that all works for everyone. We'll do a quick introduction, first of all, about Catalyst and CAST, and then start looking at the detail and the development funding round. So first of all, who are Catalyst? Catalyst is a charitable initiative to increase the resilience and responsiveness of UK civil society through digital design and data. We're an alliance of civil society organisations, funders, and digital agencies. Who are CAST? So both Debbie and I work for CAST, and CAST supports organisations for social good. We're a charity, and we are the incubator and a proud member of Catalyst. For those of you who don't know, CAST stands for the Centre for the Acceleration of Social Technology. And CAST are managing the grant funding for development on behalf of Catalyst and the National Lottery Community Fund. So who is funding this development programme? Well, the National Lottery Community Fund is funding the current programme. CAST is distributing it on behalf of the Catalyst network, and all contracts will be with CAST, and Catalyst will be delivering the programme and provide support on project level. So hopefully that's all clear. If it's not, please do post a question in Slido, but that should give you an idea of how the programme is administered and managed and delivered. Looking specifically at this second round of development, what is it? What is development? So it's funding for digital development to support organizations that work with those communities that have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. It offers 10 weeks of support to develop a solution to a specific challenge. And it will also offer the chance to continue iterations of work that you've conducted in your discovery process. And all outputs from the programs will be made open to the wider sector to ensure that other organizations with similar challenges or needs can also make the most and benefit from the learnings and the solutions coming out of this program. So solutions should be designed and developed with reuse in mind. That's kind of one of the ethos of these funding programs, to make sure that others beyond the direct grantee can benefit from all this useful work. So who should apply for development? To be eligible to apply for this specific round of development funding, applicants must have completed one of 5 pre-development catalyst discovery routes. And hopefully these all sound familiar. One of these sounds familiar to you. So the first one is this Discovery Learning Program, which took place mainly throughout October and has just ended. We had 11 cohorts of between 8 and 10 organizations take part in that program who are eligible to apply for the second round of funding. There's also an Explore program, which took place in September and this month, October, which has recently also ended. There's a third option, which is the self-paced Design Hop. Design Hop is a service that you can find through the Catalyst website. And there's an online version using the e-learning tool Thinkific. If you've completed one of those design hops, you're eligible to apply for this round of funding. There's also the Nesta Clusters Discovery program, which also took place recently, as well as Catalyst Digital Teams Discovery, which took place over the summer in response to immediate response to sort of lockdown and COVID-19. So if you've completed one of those 5 programs, you are eligible for this program. And hopefully all of you on this call will be familiar with one of these and will have completed one of these. So what is the grant amount? So for this round of development, grants will range from £5,000 to a maximum of £15,000, which will mainly cover staff salaries and other eligible costs. And this should be linked to the time you can spend on development. The digital partner amounts will be at an average of £28,000, including VAT per organisation and per successful applicant, but you won't be asked to provide a budget for digital development. So when you will be doing your application, you will only be asked to include direct eligible costs from your end. You won't have to include any costs covering digital development. You can find more information about those the sort of eligible expenditure and what we mean by other direct costs on our webpage and in that slide deck that I mentioned in the introduction. If on the back of that information you have any sort of specific questions, please do ask them in Slido and we'll try and pick it up in this session. The timelines for everyone. So the applications are currently open. They're opened on the 19th of October. They close next Monday on the 2nd of November. Then all applicants, both successful and unsuccessful, are notified on the 16th of November, once we've had the chance to cover due diligence and assessment period. Then for the successful applicants, briefs will be signed off. So a brief will be published on our open projects page on the 20th of November. And we then have an open procurement process for digital partners between the 23rd of November and the 11th of December. So this is a phase where any potential digital partner can bid for the tenders or the briefs that we've uploaded on the open projects page. And then the work begins. We've got 10 weeks development program starting after Christmas from the 11th of January until the 19th of March. And just a reminder here in your application, we should be able to clearly understand how much time and resource you can commit to managing the project. Coming back to this previous slide about the grants and the eligible costs that you can include in your application. That's a quick overview of the timeline. Give you an idea of what will be coming up then after Christmas. We'd have a kickoff event on the 12th of January, and then we would have regular sort of check-ins and catch-ups with connectors, some members of the CAST team, including myself and Debbie, on Thursdays throughout the program for an hour. And we would wrap up the program on the 18th of March through a sort of a group playback event over a whole day. So that gives you a bit of a flavor of what to expect if you are successful, of course, in the application process. We already had some questions come through on Slido before the meeting, so we suggest starting with some of those, and then see what comes through whilst we start answering those questions. Hopefully, a lot of these answers will cover some of the other questions that have come in since. Debbie and I had a look, and we can see there was quite a lot of things that would be covered in these initial slides. So shall we take a look at these? So the first question is around budget. It mentioned that there's a 28,000 budget for the development work with a digital agency. How do we know what we can afford to do for that amount? So that's a great question. It might help to think of the budget as time-based. So what can you realistically achieve in 10 weeks? And what would be the cost for this time? You can also ask this question in your application, because it'd be really interesting to see what different digital partners think they can achieve within the time and budget. But really, in short, this is not essential for your application, because we won't be asking a breakdown of that digital development cost in your application. We will only be asking a breakdown of the costs that are covered directly by yourself and your staff, and any other eligible direct costs linked to your own input in the program. If anything is unclear in that answer, again, please log it in Slido. Another question around budgets, which is very important, of course. Can you confirm how the up to 60,000 grant is broken down? So just to clarify here, the 60,000 grant is a figure that was advertised and published for the first round of development. And as we are looking to fund more initiatives, the total value of grant plus support for this specific funding round of development will be around £43,000. So breakdown of £5,000 to £15,000 grant for the successful applicants to the charity, and up to 28,000 for a digital agency. So that's the sort of overall figure we're looking at. If you make a very strong case for more funding, we will of course consider this. However, in the first round, we only agreed a higher budget for one challenge, just so you know, based on the initial criteria and requirement. You can make a case for more funding, we would of course consider this. Hopefully that answers, brings a bit of clarity, these questions around grants and amounts and budgets. There's another question here, which is also really interesting. Can we submit a joint application with other organizations sharing the same challenge? So the answer here is yes. We're really looking at the ways in which we can group some applications that have a similar challenge. What you will need to do, however, is you each need to submit an individual application to ensure that we can cover eligibility and due diligence on an individual basis. But you can then copy and paste other sections of the application around the challenge, around the potential outcomes in your application. It's really just the eligibility and the due diligence bit we need to check, and that's why we need to ensure we have individual applications. There will be, there's 3 questions, I think, in the application where you can name your partners or collaborator organizations in the following questions on this slide. One of those is, are you aware of other organizations who are applying for this funding that share the same challenge as you? If you want to apply jointly, then you would select yes. If yes, then are you open to collaborating with them on a shared solution? Again, you would select yes. And question number 43 in the application template, if yes, please provide the names of those organizations. So that's where we would invite you to name other partners or collaborators you'd like to join this work up with. Hopefully this makes sense. Again, if not, please add any follow-up questions in Slido. Next question. Why do the projects have to be open source, and what does this mean? So open source is usually applied to code. It means that anyone should be able to see how your tech is built. So by this we mean the underlying code. This allows other developers to inspect, learn from, and improve code. And ultimately, it leads to better tech. So we're applying this ethos to all the development projects. We want to ensure that you're able to share your work openly with a wider community. And really, at the end of it, you cannot really own the work funded through development. The IP for any new solutions created on the back of this program will be held by CAST on behalf of the Catalyst network. So that's hopefully that answers that question. And really with this, we also want to reiterate the fact that we want to encourage, we want to ensure that as many organizations as possible can benefit from the work that is coming out of this program, and that any organizations with similar challenges or similar needs can very easily sort of adopt any practices or solutions that have come out of the program. So that's kind of the reasoning behind this open source and reuse philosophy, if you like, that we're bringing into these programs. So can our organization submit 2 applications for different services? There's a simple answer here, no. Each organization can only apply for 1 development grant. So if you have a couple of very different services that went through either Discovery or Explore program, we would have to ask you to choose one. If you can't join them up in your one application because they're looking at different challenges and different solutions, we would have to ask you to choose one of those services that you want to include in the development funding application process. How many applications will you fund? Approximately 30. It will, of course, depend on the quality and number of applications we receive, and also on the value of the grants. As we just saw earlier in the previous slide, there is greater range this time around. But the aim is really to fund approximately 30. In the first round of development, we funded 11 grantees, so nearly 3 times the amount for this round. How are the agencies working on the project chosen? So how are the digital agencies working on the project chosen? So as I mentioned briefly earlier, for successful applicants, your application will be turned into a brief and published on the open projects page of the Catalyst website. You can see the link on the slide here. And you will see already the 11 briefs from the previous round of development are live on the open projects page as we speak, in case you want to have a look at that. It's up there. We will then invite you to nominate a lead person from your team to join our assessment panel and help assess the bids. So the bids that are coming through the open procurement process, and the panel will include 2 members of the CAST team. And we have to use this process to ensure the grant funding is distributed in a fair, open and transparent way. We're unable to make appointments based on personal recommendations or existing partnerships. So that's why we're putting a brief up on the open projects page for each successful applicant. Any digital partner who of course meets the eligibility criteria on their end to apply for this. And Debbie, I can see you'd like to add something to this, and please do feel free to chip in because I'm running out of breath.
I'll let you take some deep breath and catch up. Yeah, just there is one exception here potentially. So if you have worked already or with a partner quite on a more detailed, already taken your next steps on your challenge, if you went through an open procurement process, then potentially you could continue to work with them, but we need to see evidence that you've gone through an open procurement process. So you've approached multiple organizations, got different proposals in, and assessed those on a fair and transparent way before you selected your agency that you're working with. So there is an opportunity, if you've gone through that, to continue to work with that agency. The following question: how are the agencies working on this project? Oh no, we had that already. Can you explain the requirement for 10 partners, please? Organizations, as part of that, what David was saying about reuse, and you know, we want this work to benefit lots of organizations. Many of organizations are struggling with similar challenges, and we can't fund every organization, so we want solutions to be helpful and useful for more than one organization. So we're asking for you to talk to your network and see where have you got a shared problem, shared challenge? How can you working on this reduce the duplication of effort in designing solutions? And you know, networks also include infrastructure bodies, federation organizations, and other groups. So your network can be a formal network, or it can be a network that you put together because you know you're at the moment looking to overcome a similar challenge, and you know this work could benefit those 10 organizations. And that's why we asked for that partner approach, which is, I think, will be slightly different maybe for the discovery work, what you've done. This is, you'll be looking at working on a more focused challenge, and yeah, that's why we'd like this clearly to. We want for you to clearly think about how can this benefit not just us, but the organizations that we work with. With regards to network, can you clarify whether this can this include statutory bodies? No, organizations part of your network will need to fulfill the same eligibility criteria as you as a lead organization. So this means they have to be a charity, a non-profit, a civil society organization. You can have them as an additional partner in your network, but the core 10 will have to be non-profits. As a registered exempt charity, as a social enterprise, as listed below. I think this is a duplication of the slide. Those were the questions we had time for to prepare that were posted on Slido ahead of time. But there's lots more that come in. So Dave and I will have a look and see which questions are still outstanding. So there's a question here. I think we've managed to cover the first question about the budget. How do we know what we can afford for that amount? Again, it's about the organization as well. 10 weeks seems like a lot, but if you start focusing on a specific challenge, you have to be realistic on what you can achieve. And we were hoping that you could develop a prototype or a minimum viable product at the end of the 10 weeks. But you should pose your challenge as you are facing it with the information that you know about the challenge, and then the different agencies will put their proposal forward. And as you'll be involved with the selection and assessment procedure, you will see what they feel they can do in that time frame with that money to help you address your challenge. The second question about what would be helpful to see supporting documents, from supporting documents. Oh, thanks for putting up there, David. I was looking on the screen. What we really want to see from the supporting documents is what journey you've been through discoverment. So we're really looking for, have you done user research? Have you done some prototyping, testing, ideas, and how did you come to select this solution from the ideas that you have? What do you already know about what is existence that you can reuse? So what scanning have you done? So we really want to see evidence from that discovery journey and a clear approach to what you want to do next. That's what we're looking for. So I believe you can upload 2 documents. So as long as that is included, then that's really helpful. We just want to know that you've gone through that process, and that is what has led you to this point, and what insight have you gained through discovery. So that's what we're looking for in the supporting documents. Can you confirm how the grant's broken down? I think we've covered that. how the agencies are working. We've covered that. If we don't yet know the solution, is it feasible that a digital agency can provide a solution? Yes, as I said just now, that will be part of our assessment process to see, okay, what does the agency feel that they can do with the time and the budget, and there will be differences from the different proposals from agencies. Can you explain the requirements for 10 partners? I feel we've covered that as well. Can we choose a partner? We've covered that. How many applications we will fund? We've covered that as well. Open sourcing, we've covered that. Yes, there has been a slight drop in the total fund, as we said. It was to allow us to fund more initiatives. We still feel that the budget means you could work and create that prototype over the 10 weeks. Do you want, just saying, David, the Nigel question, I think we wanted to have some time on that. Our discovery journey has identified probable solutions in content design, platform integration, relationship management. Is this too much to ask? That is a lot. So I think we would suggest that you think of how are they dependent on each other, how are they linked, and then what is a priority for you to put forward in this bid? Because yeah, it will be too much to work on all three. They're kind of three separate challenges that are linked. So you have to think about, okay, where would this money and this support make the biggest difference? Where's your priority? And you know, is there a priority within these three areas that one comes first? So you'll have to have a think about that in submitting your application. If our user research suggests that the solution to a problem is the development of digital marketing, is it something we can apply to discovery for? We're really hoping to fund through this fund operational solutions. So we are not as we're not as likely to fund marketing solutions. However, we do recognize that this is a challenge that a lot of organizations are looking to address with other fundraising avenues now just harder to continue when we can't meet face to face, when we can't have events. So we find it's a very interesting question, Pip, and if you can build a clear application where you can make a strong case of how this would benefit you and other organizations, and how the solution you might look to build can benefit not just you but also other organizations, then that would put you in a really strong position, I think. But it would really have to be something that is could potentially develop a toolkit that other organizations can access and help them with the same challenge. But yeah, we would prefer operational challenges over income generation challenges in general. Grantee budget template. Do we detail only the eligible costs relating to our organization's inputs? Yes. So for some of you, you might not have worked in this on a digital project before and developing a prototype or a minimum viable product. So you definitely need somebody to manage, to lead this for the 10 weeks. And that would certainly, I'm not quite sure it would be completely full-time for the 10 weeks, but I would anticipate it needs to be at least 70% of a person's, if they have a full-time person, of their time over those 10 weeks. So quite a significant proportion of their job for the 10 weeks should be to this project. And then you probably need some additional support within the organization, with admin, with potentially some more user testing, setting up groups with users to kind of get their input and to test with them. So I would imagine you would want at least, because of discoveries, I'm just checking with David, if there's anything you want to add to this.
I think so when you're looking at the range between 5,000 and 15,000, so the low end, if you're applying for say £5,000, seeing as we're basing this primarily on staff time, you're probably looking at being able to commit 20 days to the project, so a couple of days a week over the 10-week period. If you're looking at this, the higher end, to maximum of £15,000 to cover the staff time, you'd be looking at, treble that, so 60 days over the 10 weeks, so much more intensive. So it really depends on how much you can commit in your team, and be realistic. We know from previous experience that there's a lot of other we're all super busy. Everyone's got day-to-day challenges, and it has been a challenge in previous programs to match the sort of expectation from the application form into practice. So it is challenging to commit, many days a week to a program whilst you've got all your other priorities still happening in your work, in your day-to-day work.
Yeah, absolutely. We would prefer budgets that shows that your current staff, that you free up resources within your current team to work on projects, because we'd like the team to build their own capabilities and knowledge and skills in digital design. So we really prefer when organizations can free up resources with their own staff to participate and be involved in this project, instead of hiring external support to deliver on this. Of course, you can include costs for external support to maybe to cover any task or activities from staff involved in the project. You can include freelance costs on the other costs. So if you do work with freelancers or intend to, you can include them. But yeah, we would really encourage you to find, if you have the capacity within your own team, to be involved in this project, so you can harbour those skills and that knowledge for the future yourself. If we are partnered through the development with another charity or multiple charities, do we still each individually receive the funding? So this is different from maybe if you did discovery, where you're working a cohort. In development, you work one-on-one with a digital agency on your particular challenge. We do, however, know we'll get more applications than we can fund, and we are also looking at recurring themes, and we will look at funding separately overarching challenges. How that will look like, we're still shaping that, we're still thinking about that, but it might mean if you're unsuccessful that we'll reach out to you later and say, your challenge resonated with 40 other organizations and we'd like to work on this together. But as I said, we're still working out how this might work, and if we look for organizations to work on this with us, there will be grant funding support available, but that's not locked down yet, so I can't say a lot more about that at the moment. In the initial round of application, 11 went through to development, 114 charities have done development. Yeah, so we will hope to fund about 30. We have invited roughly around 200 organizations to this round. So we don't expect everybody to go and apply, because it's not right for everybody. The timing is not always right for people, or they're just not quite ready. They have other things that take priority. But yeah, we're hoping to have 30, and potentially be more, potentially less. As David said earlier, it depends on the quality and the number of organizations that apply and the funding they're looking for. Finishes in November. Sorry, I'm just a discovery. Can I clarify, if we currently taking part in the discovery program, which finishes in November, would it mean we aren't eligible for this funding? Your discovery should have finished last week or finish up this week. And we're hoping that even if you finish this week, you should have all the information. You should be clear if you would benefit from or you should be clear what your next steps are. And that should help you decide if going for funding now is the right thing. And it's not a worry if not. At the moment, we're talking to our funders that we work with for next year. We already know there will be a Tech for Good funding next year from Comic Relief. And as soon as we know more, we'll share more. We are quite confident there will be more opportunities for funding. So if this time isn't right for you, then don't push yourself. We don't want anybody to have a burnout around Christmas. And there will be future opportunities. Let me see. It feels like the top two questions are already answered. If you can join on an application. Yeah, we recommend only one application, not two. Intellectual property. What's the position with intellectual property if we have an application with markets beyond the charity sector? Can we benefit from the IP? Is it shared? Yeah, so at the moment it's open. You don't own anything, any new IP or code that you design as part of this funding. If you build something on top of what already exists, of course, if you own that IP, own that code, then that is yours. But anything add-on, we will want to share. Can we share our learnings with the same 10 partners? Yes, you can, as long as you check that they will still benefit from this work. The discovery might have taken you in a slightly different direction, so you might want to revisit that and not automatically go with the same 10. So it might be worth just taking a little bit of time to think of that, check in with them, and maybe tweak that. But in theory, as long as you share that challenge and you feel this piece of work benefits your network, then you can say this to the same network. The charity partners, I'm just picking up on Claire's in the chat here that popped up. They have to be England-based because this is an England fund. They can have activities elsewhere across the UK, but for the purpose of their fund, they need to be active and deliver services in England. Pro bono support question, interesting one. I haven't had that before. Would including pro bono support from a tech firm in addition to paid consultants find a catalyst improve our bids? I think it's great if you have pro bono support, then it might mean you can achieve more in the 10 weeks if that ramps up your capacity. So yes, absolutely, include that and mention that in your application.
Debbie, would you like a breather?
Yes. Let's swap again.
Let's swap. So thanks a lot, Debbie. That's wow, lots of questions coming through, and yeah, hopefully this is useful for everyone. Another question around budgets and the budget sheet that's in the application. Should freelancers on day rates be detailed in the staff costs or other direct costs section? It's quite specific. The freelancers' rates should really go in other direct costs. They'd be considered another direct cost and not a staff cost. So that would be my answer to that one. If we're just starting the design stage and not sure of the solution, is it still possible to apply, or will there be another funding round at a later date? It's an interesting one. There's an interesting slide in the link I shared in the chat. Let me bring it up if I've got it here. Just so you get a better idea of the sort of the sort of applications, and you're all at different stages. Even if you've done discovery, you're all at different stages of development and discovery. And we're expecting 3 broad types of development work here, and you can hopefully see this on this slide. And these have implications for the briefs that will be published to attract, obviously, the best place support from digital partners. So 3 different stages: further discovery and definition. So you're committed and you want to continue the good research you've done through discovery. You want to extend that phase and test out a range of potential solutions like the prototyping, testing support. So you haven't done that yet, but you're interested in doing that on the back of discovery. you would be eligible to apply for this development round. So you don't have to have a prototype yet or a solution in mind. You can spend those 10 weeks refining that process, if you like. You might want to implement an existing solution. So through the discovery phase, you know, it's validated the needs and identified an existing tool process that could be used. That's great. That's a good fit. Or you might be wanting to develop a bespoke solution. So discovery has validated the need and identified how to best address it, though without finding existing off-the-shelf solutions. So you want to develop something bespoke. Again, you'd be able to apply through this round. Going back to your question over here about future rounds, this is the, let me just check the question again if I bring it up. So at the moment, we don't have a confirmed next funding round. We had 1 round for discovery, 2 rounds for development through the National Lottery Community Fund COVID-19 Digital Response funding. So that's it for now. There will hopefully be more funding coming out in the new year, but we can't confirm that as yet based on existing programs. This is the second and last round of development. This is a very tight turnaround from the end of the discovery session, no real time to reflect, which is a real shame in this size of project and complexity. So more of a sort of reflection and really useful reflection. Thank you for sharing that around the very quick and tight turnaround between programs and also during programs. We are aware of this. We're trying to build in enough space as best we can, obviously based on the requirements of the National Lottery Community Fund we have, and then we have to deliver these programs by spring 2021. So we do appreciate it's a quick turnaround, and hopefully if you have been part of the discovery sessions, you can get some support from your digital partners and others in your cohort to hopefully develop and flesh out a bid in that tight time frame. So thanks for sharing that. It looks as though other charities have been given 28,000. Would this cover the costs of the digital agency, or does this come out of a separate pot? Yeah, so in case it's not clear, the £28,000 is separate. It's money that's sort of, it's funding that's ring fenced for to cover the digital development costs and the work of the digital partner. You don't need to worry about that for your application process. It's on top of the £5,000 to £15,000 that you are applying for, which includes mainly your staff time and other eligible direct costs. This is a separate pot that will go through the open procurement process that we've described earlier. So hopefully that's clearer. Does the pot include funds for any setup, kit required, or resources needed? I'm going to refer back to the comment I put in the chat. I think question 3 in the slide deck that I shared in the chat covers a list of eligible expenditure that you can cover. So please have a look at that and yeah, get back to us by email, support@wearecars.org.uk if you need even more detail. But hopefully that information in the notes of that slide answers that question. A question about Explore having 2 cohorts, one which ends at the end of November. Is maybe that's the what you were, one of the questions was referring to earlier. Explore ending at the end of November. Is that cohort eligible to apply? Unfortunately not, unless you can apply by the deadline of next Monday. Those cohorts won't be able to apply for this round of funding. Hopefully there will be future funding in the new year, but we're not able to confirm that yet. If we need help finding an off-the-shelf tool, is that something the consultants can do, or do we need to have a tool in mind? This comes back to the slide I brought up earlier. If you need to develop a bespoke solution, that will be included in your sort of 10-week program, and you will get some guidance, support, and from a the best fit, the best match in terms of digital partners to help you do that. So you will get that support from that digital partner, and that's what the 28,000, the average of up to £28,000 would cover. A question here around capacity. We have a very small team, only 2 members of PayWay staff? How much can we use freelancers to support the staff in the project? We're really looking for applicants that are able to have staff, members of their team actively take part in this project. We're aware that can be tricky when you're a smaller organization, which is the case here, but we would really be looking at direct input and active engagement from your direct members of the team and so paid staff in your organization. Debbie, I don't know if you've got anything to add here around the potential role of freelancers and kind of filling that gap.
Yeah, I mean, you can bring in freelancers if you're a small team, absolutely. As David said, we'd like the existing team to be involved, so where you can, maybe you can backfill some of their duties with freelancers or temp support, but it might just mean that you need somebody to kind of hold this project and project manage it. You can definitely, and that can be a freelancer, that can be done. You can put that in your bid, so that should please don't let that stop you. But we just want to ensure that it's not just that your staff also learns and gains skills and knowledge from this project, so that they are involved. So just think about how you would do that. But yeah, if you need additional resources, it is a 10-week project. It is intense. If you don't feel you have the skills or capacity to kind of manage or hold the project, then it's absolutely fine to bring somebody in. Just think about the time frames. If you because there's not a lot of time for us in between us informing you've been successful and starting, and there's the Christmas holidays, so maybe you know somebody already, or maybe you want to already put your feelers out to kind of see who might be able to come and help you, if that's your approach, because that time goes into recruitment as well. It's a tricky balance, I appreciate that, but just have a think and have a scope who might be able to be well placed to help you if you were successful.
Thanks, Debbie. There are a lot of individual questions still coming through. I had a quick look. There's still some questions around. What was it? It was around the joint application. So there's some questions around if you're applying. So you need to apply individually, as even if you're thinking of carrying out this work on the program jointly. The aim really behind this is to have the opportunity to try and group and cluster based on different challenges and needs. That's the sort of idea behind this, based on some feedback we got from previous rounds. You would still be, if you were successful applying that way, you would still receive an individual grant for each organization as part of that group, but you would be matched with the same partner or partners to carry out that work. So rather than working on an individual basis with a partner and duplicating and doing the same thing, you'd be doing it jointly with a digital partner, and we will have sort of matched that according to that information provided in the application. Hopefully that answers that. There were 3 or 4 questions around that in Slido. We won't have time to answer all of them. I suggest we pick a couple more, Debbie, and then I'm aware we're running out of time.
Yeah, there's one that I just want to touch. Somebody posted a challenge about the open access and share, and that anything's developed is owned by CAST, and potentially head office might have objections to that. Unfortunately, that's part of our agreement with the National Lottery Community Fund. So that's so anything that is developed is open and shared, and of course you can use it. You can then tailor it afterwards if you want it, because you're on. That's all fine, but the original, what is developed on the development, will be open access, and yeah, unfortunately that's not negotiable. There was another question that I thought was quite interesting. There are 30, just to be clear. Yes, we funded 11, but we're hoping to fund another 30 in this round. So it's not 30 minus the 11. It's actually 30 that we're trying to fund. Then there's quite a few. I think, David, are there any others? There's some questions about, can we encourage other organizations to bid? Absolutely. If you have no digital agency that you have a relationship with, we still need to go through an open, transparent process, but we're always keen for new digital agencies to get involved, to look at the opportunities that are on our website. So yes, if you know of agencies who haven't heard of us or haven't heard of the opportunities, then let them know. Definitely, if you have, if you're working on other, if you're working with an agency of another project, yes, they could also potentially, if they have the right skills, bid for this project. But again, it's because you have a relationship with them doesn't mean they might be the organization you will end up working with, because our process is very open, transparent, and objective to select the best place. Agency to work with you.
Thanks, Debbie. Just again, there's a question around collaboration. Will it matter if we haven't asked other charities to collaborate? Please try and agree with them beforehand. There's an eligibility criteria. We need to make sure that they are eligible for this process, this application round. So best to agree that beforehand, before you sort of mention that in the application process, because the idea is, if you are successful, you'd be working on this together. So we would factor that in when assessing the application. And then could we encourage an agency to bid? Of course. Open Projects is a portal we're using. It's open for everyone. Anyone who meets the eligibility criteria as a digital partner, which is listed in the briefs, which you can see live now on the Open Projects page. I'll share the link in a bit. It's up here quickly.
Yeah, and we have a whole handbook available for digital agencies. So agencies who don't know us, don't know the way we work, they should have a look at this website. But there's a link to our handbook for them as well, which has a lot more information that they are after. And we also have a dedicated email address for them to ask us questions. So if you have an agency and you want to make aware, then share this link with them, and they can find out a lot more about that.
I'll just post it in the chat quickly now, but that's the page we're looking at. And the link to the handbook is here. And you'll get lots of information, so you can also get an understanding from the perspective of digital partner who would be bidding for these tenders, get a better idea of what the criteria is.
There was another question on your slide, though, that I saw that I thought was interesting, David. While it loads, there it is. What do you envision happening after the 10 weeks? So the 10 weeks is to try a solution. Hopefully this solution works for you and is right, and it gives you a minimal viable project that you could start working, start using, and build on. We do appreciate that this is not always the case, and you might find out you might have to shift and pivot during your 10 weeks and try something new. That's part of the process. That's digital innovation. It is about being agile and finding along the way what works and what doesn't work. And there's so much value in that learning, even if after 10 weeks you don't have a prototype, you'll be so much clearer of what you would need next, doing that work that you've done for 10 weeks. So it will all, where you end up, we can't just say this is where you end up, because it's an individual journey, it's agile, it's flexible, and it will all look different for the organizations who do get to work on this for 10 weeks. David, any others you want to pick up, or otherwise I think we should conclude.
Yeah, I think
session.
we should definitely we will have a look at those that we haven't had time to answer in the session. We're running out of time. We also have an email address where you can contact us. And again, Debbie, myself, and other members of the team are actively sort of answering those. We try to respond within 2 days. It's usually quicker. So if there are any sort of specific questions that we weren't able to pick up on this this Q&A session, please send them over to support@wearecars.org.uk, and we'll do our very best to answer those. I think that's it. Thanks very much for your questions. There are many coming through. We'll try and have another look at Slido on the back of the session, and see if there's anything we may have missed or themes we've missed, and make sure that we publish those out. Otherwise, contact us at support@wearecars.org.uk. And good luck with the application process if you are applying. Deadline is next Monday. And yeah, all the best with that. And thanks for your questions. And Debbie, thanks so much for co-hosting the session. There were lots of questions and lots of answers to deal with. So thank you. And thanks everyone. Good luck with your applications and have a great week.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week.